Well, Megan, thank you so much for taking time to hang with us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we've heard a little bit about blue line bears already, but I want to hear your version of the story of how did you come up with this idea?
So in 2016, there was an attack on Dallas, and 5 officers were killed. And after that, I really wanted to step up and do something for the families to help them because losing my dad is my worst fear, and I know that those families have to face that every day. And so I just wanted to reach out and help them try to cope with their loss.
Yeah. Okay. So there were officers who were killed in the line of duty, and you
Yes,
wanted to do something to help them. So did you go to your dad is a police officer?
yeah.
Did you go to your mom and dad and say, "Hey, I want to do something," and they kind of helped you come up with the idea, or did you already have the idea immediately?
Actually, so what happened was after the attack on Dallas, I actually had to write an essay for school, and I had to talk about something I believe in. So I talked about how I believe in law enforcement. And then a few months later, I ended up getting accepted into a club at school. And part of that club is completing a capstone project by your senior year. And then I came up with the idea of the bears, and I was like, this is what I want to do, mom and dad. So they just supported me 100%, and then that's where it all came from, really.
Wow. So did you even know how to sew when you came up with this idea?
No, I actually came up with the idea, and I had no idea how to do any of it, like at all. And so my mom was like, "Are you really like sure you want to do this? You could do anything else." She's like, "Are you like, can't you do something else a little bit easier?" And I was like, "No, this is what I want to do." So my grandma actually taught me how to sew, and then for the embroidery part of the bear, I actually watched YouTube to learn how to do that.
Okay, so some of our listeners may not have seen a bear yet, and we'll drive them. We want them to go to your website and check it out, bluelinebears.com. It's .com, right?
It's .org.
.org, bluelinebears.org. We'll have that in our show notes, and of course, you can just click or check it out. But they can look at the bears. We'll have some on our website as well. But for those of you who haven't seen it, Megan, describe what this bear looks like. How is it made? How is it constructed? What is this thing? And tell us what it looks like.
So it's completely made out of the uniform shirt of the fallen officer, and it actually has like where their patches were on their arms. It's on the arms of the bears. Um, the buttons from the uniform are the eyes and nose. But actually, on the chest is a little shield pattern that has the name and number of the officer. Um, on the paws, it has blue line bears on one foot, and then the end of watch date on the other one. And then on one of the hands of the bear, it has the name of who it's going to. And then around its neck is a St. Michael's medal.
Wow. And what exactly is a St. Michael's medal?
St. Michael is the patron saint of police officers. And so it's just a medal to, I
Yeah.
guess, recognize them.
And so because of your faith, that was something it sounds like
Yeah,
you wanted to integrate into the bear.
absolutely.
Yeah. So take us back to the very first bear. What do you remember what month and year? What month and year that was at?
Yeah. Actually, the officer had died a little bit over a week into the new year. It was January, like 2017. I started the nonprofit January 1st, 2017, and then on January 7th, one officer was killed in line of duty, but then we didn't end up getting in contact with them for a little bit after. But then in Orlando, there were 2 officers killed back to back in the same incident a few days later after the 7th. And so the first bear I ever made was for Deborah Clayton from Orlando PD, and it was it was definitely the hardest bear to make because I was not prepared for all of I didn't think, like, I knew it was going to be sad because the whole topic makes me sad,
Hmm.
but I wasn't prepared for breaking down as much as I did because, like, when I first got the shirt, I looked at it and, like, I just kind of took it all in. But then a few days later, sorry, it all ended up like really coming back to me. And I was having a discussion in class about good versus evil, and I just like broke down and like I couldn't like control myself. So her bear was definitely the hardest to make. And honestly, when I like after I had that breakdown at school, my mom was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Because I don't know if you can like handle it mentally.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with not being able to do it." And I was like, "I need to do it." So.
And so Deborah Clayton was the officer that this bear, it was to go to her loved
Her
ones,
son.
her
Yes.
son. And how old was her son?
Her son was in his 20s.
In his 20s. Okay. And just the actual construction of the bear, how did you figure that out? Like, did your grandmother help you with that, or?
Actually, I started planning for Blue Line Bears in about like November 2016, and I actually went through three bear patterns before I found the one that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had worked out all of the little like kinks and everything that could go wrong with the bears before we got the actual shirt. So we have about like 3 or 4 prototype bears that we had like, so we made sure that we had everything perfect for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't really that bad to do, but.
And how much of the? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There weren't like any errors or anything with it. So.
Okay. And how much of the bears do you now sew yourself?
My grandma and my mom both help me. So we all kind of do like little parts of it. It really just like depends on which part of the bear you're talking about. But sorry. My grandma and I do like most of the sewing.
Okay. Now
it's
that
like a team.
That first bear, that because you live in Florida and that was in the Orlando area, you were able to meet directly with Deborah's son?
Yes, I will.
Tell me about that experience. What was it like setting up the meeting? Did you go to their home? What did you say? What did they say? Like, take me there.
I actually met at the Orlando Police Department. A lot of her coworkers were there. A lot of her like friends were there and everything. And I wasn't sure what to do, so I just explained the bear to him and then gave it to him. And he said something along the lines of, I never thought I was going to be able to feel my mom's uniform again. And now here it is, and I feel like I'm holding a piece of her. And that was what's like really important about like making the bears in general. Those reactions where you hear that like what you're doing is worth like the time and the effort. So.
And were you crying? Like, I would have been probably bawling. What was going through your head and heart?
It was so hard mentally going through it. I was good for about like 5-10 minutes, and then as soon as it all started like really hitting me, I just like walked over to my dad and I hugged him and I just started crying.
Wow.
So it was really hard.
Yeah, what a meaningful experience for everybody. I'm sure all the officers were deeply, deeply touched. Are there any other particular deliveries? Now, you've done, how many deliveries have you done? Or how many bears, I should say?
454 bears.
454 bears. I mean, one, that's staggering that you've done that much work, but it's also staggering, the amount of loss that represents. But it also is representative of the beauty and the hope and the joy that you're bringing people with this gift. So it's just really powerful, man. That's really inspiring. Really inspiring. Are there any other particular deliveries? Obviously, that first delivery was incredibly moving. I'm sure every delivery is moving in some way, but are there other particular deliveries that stand out in your mind as being extra memorable?
Um, there's a few. I can't deliver all of them in person because of school and everything, but there are quite a few families that we still have a close relationship with. Um, the the same day that I delivered the bears to Deborah Clayton's son, and I delivered two to her son and her husband, but that same day I delivered bears to Norm Lewis, who died in a motorcycle accident responding to her being killed in line of duty, and that one was probably one of the hardest I've ever done. Like Deborah's was the hardest to make, but then Norm's was the hardest to deliver, I think, because he didn't have any kids or anything, but I gave it to his parents, and his dad was sick, and then his dad ended up dying a few months later, and his mom was just still heartbroken over it. And when I gave her the bear, she grabbed me and pulled me into a hug and then started like yelling, "Oh, Norm, I miss you." And it was like, that right there was like the hardest one for sure, because, and then like she started talking about all the things he had done in his life and he didn't deserve any of it. So
sure.
He didn't deserve to pass away. So none of them do. But that one was probably the most emotional just because of that embrace that I had with her. So.
What do your fellow classmates think of this? I mean, this is really extraordinary. I mean, not only have you made a huge impact, but you've gotten quite a bit of attention. Like, you've been given awards all over the place, and I mean, you're like this rock star bear girl. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're doing amazing stuff. What do your fellow students think of this? Are they just kind of like, whatever, or are they asking for a bear? Or, I know that's kind of a weird request, but you know what I mean? Like, what do they think about all that?
It's so different with everyone. I mean, some people are like, a lot of my close friends are. We don't talk about it much because I don't like talking about it much at school because I don't want to come across as like bragging or anything. And honestly, there are other things that people are worried about. So, my friends are super supportive of it. There are also some kids who are not supportive of it whatsoever and will, like, I get a lot of negativity from it, but people, like, I get negative comments from people, but it's not directly about the bears, but like, it is, if that makes sense. So like,
it's more just their personal issues.
Yeah, like it's more of jealousy, and then a lot of people are just kind of like towards it, but they know it's a thing. Like they're they're for it, but they just don't talk about it.
Sure. What would you say is the most difficult thing besides the emotional part? Because I'm hearing that that's definitely very challenging. What's the most difficult thing about starting and running Blue Line Bears?
Starting and running it, I'd say the hardest part starting it was just getting it up and running, because I started off and I had zero money for it. I didn't know what to do to raise money, so I started a GoFundMe and got a machine, and then from there I had to learn how to do everything. Running it, I think the hardest part is just maintaining balance, because there's school, sports, and then Blue Line Bears, and it's very hard to keep that balance. But
what sports are you playing right now?
I'm in track right now.
Cool.
And I run cross country. So.
Okay. All right. So that's a lot to handle. You got practice after school. Are you working on Blue Line Bears mainly weekends or evenings and weekends, or?
I try to put towards, like, I try to put an hour of my night every night towards blind bears, and then on weekends, I really just like sit down and do it.
Hmm.
Like,
Now,
I will just sit down and like sew a bunch. So yeah.
yeah. Who handles all the administrative aspects in terms of, are you looking for families to be able to donate the bears for? Are they coming to you? You know what I mean? Who fields those calls or emails and handles all that communication? Is that something you do or your parents do?
It's honestly a big mix of us, because if, like, when my dad doesn't have work, or if he's on his break or something, and I'm at school, he'll respond to emails and he'll keep up with Facebook messages. But if it's the other way around, I will. I'm really sorry. And then if my mom is like, if my mom isn't busy, she will too. So I mean, it's really like a combination of us. Um, but as far as reaching out to departments, we actually have an app that notifies us anytime an officer has passed away in the line of duty.
Wow.
And we use that app to get names in police departments and stuff. And then my dad will reach out, because it's easier for a police officer to reach out to a police department
Sure.
than it would be for me to. So
Wow. It's just a total family experience. What a
it
powerful,
is, yeah.
powerful moment. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any siblings, by the way?
I had two. Yes.
Two. Okay. And are they involved in the project at all?
My little brother helps with stuffing sometimes if he's up to it, and then my older brother is starting to get involved with it a little bit.
That's great. So if a middle school or high school student were listening to this and they had an idea to start something different, you know what I mean? They have an idea of somehow that they want to make a difference in the world in a positive way. What would you say to them? What advice would you give them?
I would say just don't hold back, because in the beginning there were a lot of questions that people had for me, like, oh, how are you going to do this? Like, how are you going to make this possible and stuff? And it's like, I will figure it out if you will back me up. And I think it's important for a lot of high schoolers and middle schoolers to understand that if you are passionate about something, it's not someone else's responsibility to do it. It's yours. So you need to step up and take responsibility for what you believe in, and go out there and take action, because there's a lot of things that I could fix in the world, that I would fix in the world, but everyone's different and everyone views things differently. And it's important for everyone to step up and do what they believe in.
That's awesome. Now, how about if their mom or dad were listening? And if their mom or dad were listening, what would you say to them?
The one thing that helped me the most getting started was the support from my parents, because they would ask me questions about like details and being like, how would you do this? But they weren't discouraging me. They were more like trying to help me learn how to problem solve before the problems came up, if that makes sense. And they supported me from the get-go. They never pushed me down. And I think that's really important for parents to understand, because a lot of parents, there's so much pressure on kids, I think, to be perfect. And I'm not perfect by any means, and my parents don't expect me to be. But if your child is very passionate about something, I think they should be supported, and they should be able to pursue what they believe in, even if the parent doesn't believe in it.
Awesome. So if people want to support your work, and maybe I should ask you that, like how do you fund the bears? Because that seems like your primary cost. How do you raise money to support, making the bears and shipping them and all of that?
I actually sell T-shirts and all sorts of stuff on my website, and it's actually in Facebook. But I or I have a GoFundMe, PayPal, sell T-shirts, and then I have some like small fundraisers that I do.
Awesome. So people, if they want to support you, they can go to your website, bluelinebears.org, and they can make a donation, or they can go to Facebook. So we'll connect there to you as well. And there's some cool T-shirts. Now, here's a question for you, and I think I might know the answer, but I may not. Would you consider selling bears that didn't have the officers, items on them if people were interested in buying the bears as a way to support you?
Um,
Have you ever been asked that
well,
before?
yes. It's really hard because, like, I don't know. I mean, we've definitely debated giving or like raising money by selling bears and stuff, but I think the bears should, like, I personally think that the bears should be reserved for only people who have fallen in line of duty because of what they stand for, and because I like I don't think that like I'm okay, like I don't know how to explain it, but they're memory bears. So
Sure.
they are made in memory of someone who has fallen in line of duty. And I honestly kind of think it would be a very bad idea to make it for someone who hasn't fallen in line of duty or is like someone who's like retired or something. But I don't think that's a good idea because it's kind of taking away from the point of the bears, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I knew you'd say that, but I had to ask you. I knew you'd say that. I knew you'd say that because that's the point of the bear, right? That it's like this special gift for loved ones. I knew you'd be like, heck no, I'm not going to sell you a bear.
Yeah,
That
no.
would take away the point. Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. But they're really cute bears. They're amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're beautiful. All right. So if people want to check out the bears and support you, bluelinebears.org. And if they have had a loved one who has passed away, I assume they could reach out to you as well. They've had an officer that's fallen in their family. Megan, I admire what you're doing. I love the entrepreneurial spirit that you're doing it to make a difference in the world. I love your heart behind it. I love that it's a family experience. It's so cool, and I just cheer you on. Keep going, keep expanding, keep doing new things. It's so cool. So great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.